Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Curious Card, where we look at fun and unusual and oftentimes just plain bad cards and see what kind of decks we can make with them. Now, the first two episodes we spent looking at two decks that are not too far off the beaten path. Mega Kangaskhan Fairies actually made it to a top 4 world spot, so it's definitely been played. And Round, though it's never really done well in the tournament, has certainly been tried by most players. But today I was scrolling through my collection like so when I happened upon this card, a Gyarados. Now there hasn't been a competitive Gyarados for a little while, not since the one with Tail Revenge that I don't think I even played competitively when that was out. But this one does exist. This is in Legendary Treasures, a set that most people really know for just reprints of fairly good EXs and, I guess, Spiritomb, but not much else. But he's in here, and he has what I think is a pretty interesting attack. For 2 energy, he knows Howling Rampage, which, let's take a few seconds to just savor that attack. That's like a mega Pokemon attack. I like that name. So it does 20 damage times the number of prize cards both players have taken. Now this sounds kind of similar to things like Shaman EX's Revenge Blast, which did 30 damage plus 30 more for every prize card your opponent has taken, or I think there's a Lucario that has a similar attack. This is a little more unwieldy though. This says that the damage output is dependent not only on the prizes your opponent has taken, but also the prizes that you have taken. Now, it's very easy to force your opponent to take prizes with cards like Cofagrigus, the one with 6 feet under, and Melodic, which has that Energy Grace ability. But taking prizes quickly is not so easily done. Otherwise, it would be really easy to win games. Taking prizes is deliberately difficult to do in the Pokemon card game, because that's the objective. So, what kind of deck could we pair Gyarados with? So we want something that could not only, forfeit prizes fairly easy, but could also take prizes explosively at the beginning, therefore letting Gyarados kind of clean up at the end. And so I was thinking, what could we pair this with? And so we need some kind of deck that has a strong beginning and early middle game, but then tends to fizzle out as the game goes on. And it struck me that the deck that's most known for this is probably Virizion Genesect. You get that strong opening, oftentimes a turn 2 Emerald Slash onto a Genesect EX, which can then red signal something or G-boost or something, or really just do whatever it wants. It's pretty adept at taking prizes when it needs to. Now that deck also happens to have a pretty big vulnerability to Pyroar. Different techs have been used to try to correct for that. Most recently, the Bertic from Furious Fist, but a lot of people have been playing Float Stones in their deck just to counter this. I've seen some Pyroar players do that, and Landorus decks usually run Float Stone anyway since they play Garbodor. I've even seen some Abomasnow, which takes Grass Energy. Gyarados is also a Water Stage 1 and might also be another solution to the Pyroar problem. But most of all, I really like this card in that deck because of the explosiveness of cards like G-Booster and just the quick prize-taking potential that Virizion Genesect has. So let's take a look at a deck that I put together based off of this. The Verdant Rampage deck, as I have named it. Now you see it looks pretty similar to a Virizion Genesect deck. We've got the Virizion, the Genesect, the Jirachi is pretty standard, and even a Mr. Mime, and then Magikarp. Now, we did, unfortunately, hold your tears, lose the Soggy Rush Magikarp from Dragons Exalted. I know that's a huge blow. Take a moment, pause the video if you need to. Shed a few tears. It's alright. Now this Magikarp knows Flailing Flop, which in my opinion is a by far inferior attack, but we'll make do. We really don't know when this would come in handy, but you might just need 10 damage on an Eviltal that you couldn't knock out with a Megalo Cannon or something else. I don't even know how the math would work on that. And then Flailing Flop could certainly get the job done. So let's not rule that out. But rest in peace, Soggy Rush. So a brief card explanation of all the Pokemon. We do only run 2 Virizion EX. This is actually not what I would prefer. I only have 2 Virizion EX, as disappointed in myself as I am to say that. But Virizion EX is actually really, really hard to get right now. It's kind of the most coveted card. If you look down the trading tab on PTCGO, Virizion is definitely the most sought after card and almost impossible to get a reasonable deal for right now. 2 Genesect EX, I actually would not change this even if I had more Genesect. I think this is pretty optimal considering we only want to allow a couple of EXs to be knocked out before we start rampaging with Gyarados. Now, one of the most important cards in this deck is Mr. Mime with the Bench Barrier ability, stopping all damage done to your benched Pokemon. Because Magikarp has 30 hit points. This has become a bit of a tradition in the Pokemon trading card game. Magikarps are very easily knocked out, so Mr. Mime is pretty indisputable in this deck. Jirachi is pretty standard in Virizion Genesect decks and just good in case you're dead drawing. Now, as far as the energy line goes, we are going to be doing a split of grass and water energy. Gyarados and Virizion both have pretty flexible energy requirements. Gyarados just needs 1 water and a colorless. Virizion just needs a grass and a colorless. So I figured there's really no reason for us to run rainbow energy and open ourselves up to the danger of things like Cobalion EX or anything that can target special energies. And we definitely don't want to be damaging our own Pokemon, even in a deck like this where we don't mind prizes being taken on us early. We also have 2 Plasma Energy just for the red signal capabilities. When you slap this on Genesect, we get a catcher effect. We also run 1 Lysander, so between these 2, we can usually bring out Pokemon that we want to bring out fairly often, which is good because anything that threatens Gyarados on the bench, we definitely want to take out if it's getting too powerful late game. Other than that, the supporters are pretty standard for Juniper, 3 Skyla, 3 Colress because I don't like Shauna. In is a very good card in here. If you take a bunch of prizes and then your opponent takes a bunch of prizes and you put up a Gyarados and in both of you down to a low hand size, that Gyarados is just going to go berserk and they're not going to have the resources to deal with that, which is cool. We've got 4 Ultra Ball for our search line. G-Booster is our ace-bet. Like I said, that explosivity of just taking a quick knockout on an EX and boosting Gyarados' attack power is just way too good to pass up. 3 Muscle Bands can be useful for Gyarados. Say you've taken, like, I don't know, 3 prizes, they've taken 4, you're hitting for 140 with Gyarados. This can bump it up to 160. Okay, so you've both taken 4 prizes, and you just need a little bit of extra power. Muscle Band is certainly practical. Along those lines, we do have 1 Iris, a card we don't see much of, except maybe in an Empoleon deck. This can, along the same lines, if you're kind of mid-late game, then Iris can really help you in the kind of 140 damage range with Howling Rampage. Iris can help you amp up your damage output for that kind of second to last KO on an EX, and kind of getting, therefore, the more Pokemon that you knock out, the more powerful Gyarados is going to be. So knockouts on either side are good, and Iris can help with knocking out some of your opponent's Pokemon. What else? I have a Megaphone just as a general card. Never a bad card to have. 3 switching cards, 2 switches, and 1 escape rope. We don't want our Gyarados being brought up active in the middle of the game. because he has a 3 retreat cost, and that would be bad because he can't really attack effectively until late game. See, Professor's Letter, very good with searching out whatever basic energy we need, and with 3 Skyla, it's very doable. And the only other card that I'm not sure belongs in here is Crushing Hammer. Wasn't really sure what else to put in this deck. I've never made anything like this. So this seemed like a good general all-purpose card. Definitely kind of want to slow your opponent down if you're not having your ideal start. There is a very severe danger of starting with something you don't want to start with, namely Magikarp or Jirachi. And so things don't always go as planned at the beginning of the game. Crushing Hammer can hopefully slow down our opponent so they don't take complete advantage of us. And then Energy Switch is often used in Virizion Genesect decks to great effect. It's probably even better in here, just powering up a surprise Gyarados. Gyarados only requires 2 energy, so this works perfectly. And yeah, I think that's all the cards, so let's go look at a game I played with this very silly but very fun deck on PTCGO. Looks like we're going up against Biome 123. Just to reiterate, the idea of this deck is to take lots of early explosive prizes with Virizion and Genesect, and incidentally let our opponent take some prizes, not, allowing them, but it's going to happen. And when the deck starts to sizzle out, we'll put up Gyarados and do lots of damage. Now we have Mr. Mime and Genesect to start with. We're going to throw up Mr. Mime as a sacrifice because we really don't have a way to power up Genesect right now. We can play that in and hope for something good, but I'd rather just use Mr. Mime as a sacrifice and kind of stall for a bit of time here. We're not going to put him down yet because we are going first, and we do see a Seismitoad and a Pyroar. This is a deck that has been gaining some popularity. I think it recently did well in the Berlin Arena Cup, if you all know what that is. But the idea is that Seismitoad struggles with grass, you throw in Pyroar, and you don't struggle anymore. So pretty simple, you're weak to grass, so throw in some fire. Now, our end did not give us any good cards. We're going to have to end again next turn. Looks like we're going to be Quaking Punch this turn. Our opponent does have the DCE. We'll see what the Skull could go for. It could be a laser since we don't have Virizion out. Oh, but just an Ultra Ball. And this could go for all kinds of things. Maybe Garbodor. Or, sorry, a Trubbish to eventually get out Garbodor. Nope. There is a Garbodor, but he does discard it with the Ultra Ball, so he's going for the Pyroar. I guess he just kind of was hoping we don't have the end and is going to just try to make sure he has the Pyroar for next turn, which will more or less give him what he will assume is the win. But little does he know, we have a Magikarp in our hand now. So we're going to plop that down. I can almost feel the judgment from my opponent. Probably wondering either what does Gyarados do, or is this guy just doing this as a joke? I do not blame him. Mewtwo comes down. There is a laser, so our Mime is not going to make it through this turn. He's going to be knocked out from the poison damage and the Quaking Punch. And worst of all, we can't play that Ultra Ball. Maybe I should have played that at the beginning of last turn. Not sure. But we can't get Jirachi now. So we're going to go for what looks to be our only hope and red signal out that Mewtwo. Hopefully he won't have the switch. He does have the double colorless energy. We'll see if he actually retreats. He's putting a muscle band down. That indicates that he might actually be attacking with this Mewtwo, and he does. So that's just an 80, which is great for us because now we can get Jirachi and get out of this mess. So the question is what to Ultra Ball. I think the switch for sure. We have nothing we really want to switch into. And I guess we'll throw away the Genesect. I'm not sure what the right play is here. But we're going to save that muscle band. Or by save, I mean throw it on the Gyarados immediately. Find a Juniper with the Stellar Guidance, and get a fresh hand. Hopefully we can find a Virizion. We do get one, and a bunch of energy, and the G Booster. That is really not of much use to us right now. Not even sure if I want to throw that down just yet. But we'll be able to switch into the Virizion, protection from laser with the Verdant Wind, and we'll see what happens from here. We do already have a water on our Gyarados, and that is fortunate. We don't have to worry about that and getting a second energy until we're actually putting him out. But having that water on him is a good start. I'm always worried about not finding the right kind of energy at the right time. And here comes a Megaphone. I guess it was the correct decision not to play that G-Booster. Maybe the incorrect decision earlier to Ultra Ball away the Genesect instead of the Muscle Band. Oh well. We do have a Skyla here, which we really don't have any option but to play because we don't have any other supporters, and we definitely need another one for next turn. But after that, we probably will just Emerald Slash. We'll throw that water on to Virizion, maybe save the grass for either another Virizion or the Genesect that's about to come up. Probably doesn't matter, because we're probably going to Skyla for a Juniper here. Be a little bit aggressive. Just checking what's in the deck. But I really think the Juniper is the best choice here. We could end, but I really don't like Skyling for end. Maybe it's just like I'm just so frustrated that I'm having to Skyla for a supporter that I just start being more aggressive than I need to be, but I really don't like playing Skyla for in. I'm not going to play the Professor's Letter. I don't think that would really help us because we're going to have to Juniper next turn anyway, and we already have an energy in our hands. So we're going to Emerald Slash onto the Genesect, get some damage on the Mewtwo. Unfortunately, that Mewtwo will knock us out with X-Ball next turn. It's going to do exactly enough, 10 over actually. But hopefully we can get the knockout next turn. Oh, there goes G-Booster. I guess I should have thrown that down while I had the chance, because it is no longer in my hand. I could Skyla for it, but I don't have any energy anymore. So I'm going to have to play a supporter and hope I draw either a Muscle Band or the G-Booster. I'd prefer the Muscle Band. That's all I need here. Here comes the Pyroar, so Gyarados will deal with that later. It might be coming up for some big damage in a minute, though. Yep, Genesect's really the only one to put up here. That Gyarados is still not doing near enough damage for the knockout. We do have a Crushing Hammer here. I'll probably go ahead and play that and see if we can get ahead. I'm really not sure what I would discard here. It really depends on what I think I'm going to get with the Juniper that I'm about to play. If I'm going to get a Muscle Band, then I would rather hit the energy on one of the bench Pokemon. If I get a Plasma Energy, then I'd rather hit something that's not Seismitoad. And I do get heads, so I'm going to hit the thing that I would be okay with hitting no matter what I Juniper into, and that's going to be the double colorless on the Pyroar. At least I don't want to be KO'd by that next turn. I want to force him to keep the Mewtwo active. So we're going to be aggressive here again and play the Juniper. We're really kind of got to burn through our deck looking for what we want. We do get the Grass Energy, but that is pretty much it. We didn't get a Muscle Band, we didn't get a Plasma Energy, so we're not going to be able to take a knockout on this Mewtwo, which is extremely disappointing. That would have been pretty huge if we'd gotten that. And we had pretty good odds, too. That's pretty disappointing. But we'll take what we can get here. And next turn we will be able to get a second Gyarados out, though we are going to be at odd prices, so we'll have to play this kind of carefully from now on, because this Mewtwo is going to take another EX knockout on us. We'll probably go ahead and play this Megaphone just to get it out of our hand. I feel like we might get item lock later, and Megaphone doesn't have too much value in this deck in general and in this matchup. We're going to snipe the only thing we can hit, which is the Seismitoad. That might be relevant later. But that Mewtwo has an infuriating 20 hit points left. I almost want a Soggy Rush to see if I can knock it out. But I will refrain from that particular temptation. Trubbish comes down. It's not very relevant at this point. It could be for a Verdant win later, but Gyarados doesn't have any abilities. His Rage is his ability. Alright, so up you go. So we see that In would be really good here, but we seem to have just about every supporter except in our hand. We're going to have to, I think, Ultra Ball away, Lysander, and the Chorus just to grab something from our deck, probably something that we don't need, and just Juniper that away. We're going to be looking for an energy of any kind, and that will be enough to knock out this Mewtwo. Then we'll have to see what our opponent has. We're kind of going to be at their mercy after this. We really need to hit an N off of this Juniper so we can put them down to size next turn. We do forget the G-Booster now that we don't have any Genesects left in the deck. I discarded the first one earlier and the other one was just knocked out, so that's disappointing. We do get the other Crushing Hammer. Not sure who I will hit next with that, if I hit a Heads, which would be pretty lucky. But I think that card works in the deck pretty well. Especially when you flip all Heads. That's pretty nice. So we're going to hit the Seismitoad, get rid of another double colorless energy, and then a third double colorless is going to go down after we take down this Mewtwo. Going to make it very difficult for my opponent to attack this next turn because 3 of his double colorless are in the discard pile. And he would require one of those to attack with either of his benched Pokemon. Now we do have an in, that's really good. We can in our opponent down this next turn. And Gyarados is going to start taking some prizes, and the more prizes he takes, the easier it's going to be to take more prizes. That's kind of the coolest thing of this deck. The longer the game goes on, regardless of who's winning, the more powerful Gyarados gets. We do see a laser from my opponent. Verdant Wind will block that. There's no Garbodor out yet, thankfully. That could have been a pretty big annoyance otherwise. I also have the Plasma Energy. Also, now that Genesect, this is a very Genesect-friendly hand, but we do not have any Genesects left. We do have Ins, though, and we will definitely play one this turn after attaching that water to the Gyarados. Potentially, we could get damaged. This Gyarados could get damaged, and then we might need to switch or escape rope into the other one. I'm about to end, but I really don't want to redraw that G-Booster, so I'm going to give this G-Booster to Jirachi. I think she's always wanted one, and I want to give her this opportunity. Use it well, Jirachi. Well, you draw into a hand, doesn't really matter. The important thing is our opponent has 1 prize card left. This is the power of N with this kind of deck. You've got a Gyarados at your door, and you don't really have the resources to take care of it. And N is certainly not going to help you. He just played his own N, and he's back down to 1 card. We don't have enough here to take a knockout, unfortunately. 8 prizes have been taken, so we're doing 160. However, we've only used 1 Muscle Band. We run 3, so we're going to Ultra Ball real quick before we Juniper just to see if we've still got 1 in the deck. Go ahead and grab this Magikarp that we don't want in the deck anymore. And wow, they're all gone. That's very disappointing. But we do see that the Escape Rope is still in my deck. And because of that earlier Megalo Cannon, that Seismitoad has 160 hit points, and that is in perfect range of a Howling Rampage. So if we can snag that, we can actually get the knockout if he chooses to promote that. And we do get it, so we'll throw that down and see what my opponent does. He'll probably have to put out the Seismitoad. Pyroar he's devoted so much to that already, I don't think he can afford to throw that up. Yep, it's going to be Seismitoad. A little bit of a misplay here. I promote Jirachi. I could have just went back to the other Gyarados and just put an energy on that and attacked, but instead I attach an energy to Jirachi and retreat. Probably doesn't matter at this point. And a Howling Rampage for 160 will take down that Seismitoad. There's the Muscle Band. That got my Muscle Band. And here comes Pyroar, and I really don't see much my opponent can do to stop me. There's an N, and that's surely the last nail in the coffin. Yes, sir, and a pass from my opponent. That means we are going to Howling Rampage for 400 damage, and that is the game. So, this was a lot of fun. Gyarados just becoming more and more powerful as the game goes on. That was pretty cool. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. I will have more for y'all soon. I'm Calvin with the Curious Card.